Wait, did I just ruin the lighting?
Did you? I don't know. I'm really busy staring at me.
All right.
Welcome back, guys, from wherever you are in the world. Thanks for watching, hopefully on silent, on YouTube, on your toilet. Welcome back. We're here for another episode of HAMYAW, and today we want to talk about something quite exciting that just happened in my business, and something that Margo and I have actually been talking a lot about, which is the art of the rebrand. Or if not the rebrand, at least changing your positioning. So last week, I launched the rebrand of my website, HillaryWeiss.com, under a bit of a new name, Statement Piece Studio by Hillary Weiss. I think you guys have heard me talk about it a little on the show, here and there, but I'm really excited about it. And actually, I want to show you guys a little bit about how it works, talk to you a little bit about how it got put together. But I think Margo and I, most importantly, want to talk about why positioning yourself and kind of doubling down in so many instances when it comes to branding, when it comes to putting your message out there, is vital.
So I was talking with someone recently who was repositioning some of her services, and she did what we all do, which is like run to her about page and start to redo her entire website, and then freak out that she didn't have enough time and like she wanted to do the positioning, but like, just losing your mind in all there is to do. And I think that's because nobody realizes that when you want to shift something in your business, what you're actually doing is rebranding. And that is a 6-month long engagement, if not more, of taking your time with how you want to be perceived and what you want to shift and what you want to change. And instead we just go into panic mode of like, I've got to change this copy and people need to know it now. And I totally threw this thing away. So I think we need to talk about you're pivoting, you're shifting. You also don't always have to change the whole thing. Like sometimes you can just change, your homepage copy or an opt-in form to test enough, or change your service offerings. So what I'd like to hear from you, share with us, why did you decide to make the investment in doing a proper rebrand?
I'm so glad you raised that point, because actually this whole process, and I want to be clear about this, took about 2 years. I know, it sounds crazy, but stay with me, guys. I feel like rebranding in some ways, especially when you're doing like such a big pivot, is almost like moving a cruise ship out of like a tiny harbor. It's like a 36-point turn. It's got to be slow and you can't rush it. And I also want to stress that it took a lot of time, because I feel like some people see some of my stuff and they're like, wow, she just poops good ideas for breakfast. And I want you to know that that's not true. I also poop amazing ideas for lunch and dinner. But what really matters is that this stuff takes a lot of time and effort. So I actually came up with the idea for Statement Piece Studio in 2017 when I was taking a course from one of my favorite brand experts, and actually someone who was the creative director for my rebrand and also a mentor of mine, Sarah Ashman of Public Persona. And I took her course, Mirror Brand, and it was all about sort of figuring out what the next step for your brand is, how to name it, how to create a hook, how to create a clear concept that's like a golden thread that goes through the whole thing. Part of the exercises were like, what are you kind of known for in your day-to-day, like IRL? What do you think makes you distinct? What do people always compliment you on? And I remembered that I'm always wearing at least one statement piece of jewelry.
You are. When I first met you, white shoes.
So I was like, oh my God, statement piece. Interesting. I'm always writing a statement piece of jewelry. Statement piece can tie into copy. Statement piece developing like a core concept to build your own positioning around, like, oh, this is it. And I just felt the energy go through me like lightning. And I was like, ah. And then we did exactly what you were talking about, Margo, where I created my opt-in, the statement piece framework, which was testing out this idea of a statement piece, coming at it from this concept that I wanted to build a new brand around, which is about helping entrepreneurs figure out what their unique, unmistakable idea is that makes them unmissable in their markets. It takes a while. There was a lot of trial and error. And I think everyone's like, oh, how did you write your own copy? Writing my own copy sucks. I will tell you, it requires 50 pages of trash before you get to great copy for your own site. But be willing to go through the swamp.
Yes. Okay, so that's the part people miss. So I don't know if a lot of people know this, but when I first started my consulting firm, I was a brand consultant. I was a brand strategist. When we worked with big companies, it was a 6 or 7 month thing where you're establishing voice.
Yeah.
You're on your values. You're doing all the things that brands dismiss as like fluffy, because they don't actually use it or implement it in the right way. But when it comes to the reason you do those things is because you're trying to express those things visually. So that's what people misunderstand. So when you hear people say stuff like, your brand is not just your logo, guys, when really like when people are hiring branding, they really do just want logos, colors, and fonts, but they're wrong. Like, this is what they misunderstand. And this is why the feedback on it always sucks. The thing I always remind people is, like, when you ask someone, because you see this a lot in private groups, and I know everyone watching here is in private Facebook groups with a lot of entrepreneurs or a lot of other copywriters or marketers, and they're always like, guys, what do you think of these 4 logos? Which one do you like the best? Like, that is the worst way to get feedback on your brand.
Why?
Oh my, why? Because it doesn't fucking matter what they like or don't like. What matters is, did this execute on my brand values? And so you need to tell them, like, who you are, what you stand for, and what you're looking to exude. So it could be that I hate it, but it's on brand for you.
It's awful, but it's you. It was an interesting mental thing for me because I have a large personality. And my whole life, it's been like, no, stop, indoor voice, down, make it palatable. On my old site, like, the first picture isn't even of my face because I was like, I want it to be about the words. Like, it was me, like, with a head down. Yeah, exactly. And then I was like, you know what? No, this is a personal brand. This is about me now. So I'm going to double down on kind of who I am and how I come across, and also how I want to give other people the courage to come across.
Yes.
So the whole theme with the shoe was kind of larger than life.
This is why people say start with why. And I want to make a clear distinction here, because I think that when you start with why, which you should for your brand, matters when you are at Hillary's level, when you've been in this game 6 to 10 years. Like, that's when you do it. When you are, in year 2 and you're like, I don't know, I think I'm aiming for this. And what happens when you start with why is you get into a fucking existential crisis.
So
and
true.
You don't know what you're about. And you're like, but I care about the trees, but I also really love shoes, but also I love donuts. And also I love my mom. Maybe I'm about family. And, like, you don't have, like, a clear idea.
Maybe I'm the Lorax. I don't know. But no, it's true. It's absolutely true.
It's fair. You don't know how to distinguish, like, your personal values from what your brand is and who it's for, and, like, how all of those intersect. And that comes from having been out there doing the work. You have to have a business first, I think.
100%. It's like going through adolescence. Like, it's like the same website you would want at 13 is not the same website you'd want when you were in your 20s.
And it's a huge commitment. So
exactly. And investment.
It's like marrying your high school boyfriend. Like, that works out for only Corey and Topanga, who are fictional.
So may I present to you, good people of the internet, welcome to the new website, guys. Statement Piece Studio, big ideas that jump off the screen. It's your girl coming out a laptop to mess your day up. The whole thing was, the goal was to do something that kind of hadn't been done before. And the first step was primary colors, because everybody had done the pastels and the glitters and the golds and the greens and the blues on the white. So I was like, you know what I want to do is primary.
But you know what it also said to me, because I was actually really surprised by this creative choice, because statement piece always, to me, is something like, that is the glitter, right? It's the things that that are sparkly and different. And what I loved about, go down a little. Yeah, right there. These things are the fundamentals. It's the boldness of it. What it sounds to me like, it's the advanced basics, which is something I always say about my brand, but, like, that's what I love about you. It's like, let's go back to the foundations and get louder on them.
Bingo, that's exactly it. And everyone's like, did Mondrian, who's the artist who does similar kind of primary color work, he's an abstract artist who basically, like, distills everything down to its essence, which is technically these 3 primary colors. And that was what I feel what a big piece of the Statement Piece Studio principle is. And also, as you say, like, it's back to basics. It's going back to the fundamentals and blowing them out and making them bolder and more powerful. I want to start with my favorite photo on the site, which is actually praise.
I love this.
This one I was just really proud of. I don't think it got enough airtime. So one thing that I did do, and that I'm going to see if it works, I may change this photo on the work page, but I love these little signs. But one thing that I did, which I'm going to see if it's effective, is that I kept things really simple on my work, learn, and speaking pages with a call to action to sign up to kind of get the full details. I have a slide deck for all of my offers, actually. So we're going to see if that works. I may expand on this a little bit because it talks about the basic principles, like who it's for, what people are ready for, what they want, what I can do, and then invites people to kind of, like, get the details via contact form. So I'm interested in testing that out to see if it works. I have no idea if it does yet. It's way too early in the process. This is part of the strategy, was that I wanted to get better at lead tracking. I wanted to get better at understanding where my referral sources were coming from, and I wanted to get better at qualified leads. Because in my slide decks, I was just really proud of how it turned out, and I love the grid look. And what's nice also is that the template is really, really easy to customize.
Is this built on WordPress?
Yes, it is. Yep.
That is a big deal.
Isn't it a big deal? It's amazing. I just was really thrilled with how it turned out because people were calling it like a work of art. And I was like, it kind of feels like one because we put a lot of love into this and it's all really about, being unforgettable, being bold. And in order to kind of embody that, I had to be as bold as I wanted my clients to be. It was just not the time for me to be shy or to be sort of restricting myself or to be making myself quieter, which is what I encourage people to do the opposite of all the time. And you and I have talked about this where it's like, what I'm gonna need you to do is crank it up to 11 because it's like being on stage or like dancing. If you're not smiling and like doing all of the expressions and movement like to the utmost, it's gonna come across flat. Nobody's gonna remember that girl who was modest on stage. You know what I mean? So if the internet is your stage, you've got to figure out how to sort of amplify what makes you unique and what makes you stand out and really figure out a way to bring it to the people in a way that's memorable. And
what you did,
most importantly, gets you excited to show up.
Yes. And what you did that I think deserves a lot of praise is you still followed conversion rate optimization principles here.
Yes, I did. Thank you.
You didn't put them in conflict. So to every creative team ever, they don't have to fight. They can be friends.
I'm kind of excited to see what happens. And I also know that you've been working on some positioning shifts as well.
Yes.
You want to talk about that?
Yes, I would love to. So there are less extreme ways to test things. Like Hillary said, I am not at the point where I need the full rebrand in the way that Hillary did it, but I have been playing around with the copy on my site to make sure it's really clear what this is, because that's the real question. Like, if you get the inside joke, it works. And so I'll share a little bit of my recent changes and why I changed them. The biggest change I made is this pop-up. So jury's still out on pop-ups. I have found this one to be one of the best that I have ever used. The other one being, and I actually think I'm going to put this one back up, I had one that said, please join this list so it's not just my mom. And the only reason I took it down is there came a point where people were like, I still don't get what this list is. And that was a fair criticism until I realized that people who are in the internet marketing world get it.
Like, they know exactly what, that's so true. So true. And it's also, I think that's so important that sometimes your audience can fill in the blanks and it feels good for them to do so. And that's what makes it work. And I think that's so essential. We forget. Everyone's like, it's not clear.
It's like a head nod to my people. But this one came straight out of our mutual friend, Talia, literally said this to me. She's like, you're the redhead that lives in my pocket that yells at me to do what I'm supposed to do. And I was like, oh my God, I am. But I'll tell you why I'm showing you this while we're talking about like websites and positioning is that my site was actually fine. What I was looking to qualify was the leads that get into my email list and who get my writing. And where I had a really tough time was I was previously selling the arena, but also writing a ton. And I wanted people on my email list who are future book buyers and readers. And that's a little bit different than putting them straight into a funnel. And so what that meant is that the positioning was a little bit more about me than I was comfortable. I felt like the way you described how you didn't want your face, like it's about the words, it's not about me. I totally felt that way and I still feel that way, but I've sort of had to reconcile the fact that people want me, they want my voice. Like when I went and interviewed readers and I was like, why are you on here? Like, what are you looking for? And they all say the same thing. They're like, I really like your take on these topics. And I just like your frame. Like, I like how you position it. I enjoy the way you talk about it. I always learn something. They're like thought pieces. And I was like, okay, so it's me. Shit. I was like, I gotta listen to my Hillary and I gotta double down on that. And it's working. It's really, really working way better than any other lead magnets I was using. So what the industry standard says is to always do stuff like 5 ways to improve your headline, which by the way, my market's not there. Like you can fucking Google that. Like Google how to change your headline. So anyway, you guys have seen my homepage. The things that I have changed, I put a shop page together, which was really, really scary for me because I had to commit. So I have the opposite of Hillary branding. Like mine is really, really clean. Actually, that's not fair. Yours is clean.
I think so too. I was like, mine is dirty. No,
I don't know what to call it.
Totally
Less, I use white space more. That's what we'll say.
Fuck white space. Go on.
Mine basically looks like a little kid made it. I love it. I like the simplicity. I really am making a lot of what I wished I could find. Like I don't like when I get lost in a website. It makes me feel confused. I showcase my courses now instead of other things. The book that I'm working on with an opt-in form that's embedded and then talking to me. And then I changed the bottom to be about where's Margo's best stuff, which by the way, footer opt-ins never convert. So this should be like a menu.
I love this new positioning, and I also know that you kind of shifted not just with talking about marketing, but also the nature of creativity and helping you creatives, I believe,
yes,
in your words, punch their lizard brain in the face,
yes,
which was a personal fave of mine. And I think that's such a powerful positioning and shift for you. And I can feel like in our conversations, since you kind of hit on that truth for you, like the momentum kind of building and the confidence building as well. And I think that's why it's so important to really sit down and figure out like what the clear idea is, like what the statement piece is, because it's the foundation for everything. It's hard to find, but when you land on it, you're like, zoom. So
no, I think this is really important. I'm glad you said that, because what people don't realize, like, it took me almost 6 years to get to my positioning statement.
Yeah. Yes,
like it was always changing, at least to one that stuck. Like now I can say I help creative entrepreneurs punch their lizard brain in the face, and everyone's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. You know, that's usually when you know you nailed it, is when you say it, and people are like, oh yeah. If they go, what's that? Or if they're like, you're usually off. Or if it doesn't feel like it's something you want to show off. That's the other thing. Like you have to be really, really proud of the thing that you stand for. And if you can't lean into that, like there's a natural discomfort that comes with putting yourself out there, but then there's also like, no, this is fucking awesome. My people get it.
No, this is amazing. No, and I think it's absolutely true. And I know for me, again, it was really the instance of feeling like I've spent my whole life kind of trying to be like, I'm too much. I'm just this big amoeba explosion of person, and I need to make myself neat and tidy and smaller. And doing the opposite of that has actually helped me build so much momentum in my business, and again, inspired others to kind of get to see where the edge of their own like powerful personality or what their thing is. And that's, if I want to teach people to do that, I've got to embody it. So away we go.
Yes, I love that. Let's make that our ending note, because I think that's so important about embracing your extra and owning who you are and showing up as that person. And despite what people are going to say about you, like my big thing was always like, oh, I'm annoying. Like,
yes, same.
I'm too much for people. I like all of those things. And it's really awesome, by the way, when you find other people who are too much, because then you just like can be too much. You should see Hillary and I's text messages.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I think normal people would have a stroke. But like, we are going to wrap this up with, you got to check out Hillary's statement piece, framework, and studio. It is a work of freaking art where she does the beautiful dance between conversion rate optimization and functional utility of her website with truly embracing who she is. And it comes out on the page. You guys are going to go look at it, and you are going to feel like warm and fuzzy inside with a little bit of jealousy, but in the good way, where it's like, I have a little bit of this in me. I just got to find it.
Yes,
and she can help you find it. This has been HAMYAW. I'm Margo Aaron.
And I'm Hillary Weiss.
We'll be back in 2 weeks. If you liked this video, like it, comment, subscribe, and tell all your friends. We'll see you.
Bye, guys.